So you're all wondering, what am I going to be cooking for you today? You'll come to find that out in a few minutes. So, I think it was a few weeks ago, somebody came up to me and they asked me, how old am I? And I said, I'm 48. I'm not shy or ashamed of speaking my age. And he said, oh, actually, I'm 48 too. What day are you born on? What's your birthday? Because, when you're the same age, curiosity, now you want to know could he be sharing the same birthday as I am? And I said, yes, 10th November 2005. He said, hold on, 2005? I said, yes, 10th November 2005. And obviously you could see the perplexion in his face. I think I could see that in some of your faces. So I said to him, yes, 27th April 1971 was the day I was born, meaning the day my mum gave birth to me. But 10th November 2005 was actually the day I discovered my purpose in life. And that's what I consider to be my birthday. So let me cast back as to how all that has come to be. My dad, and I'm very blessed that he's still alive today. He's turning 80 later this year. But my dad has been one of my role models. Dads can be our superheroes for many of us, right? So, some of the values that my dad has instilled in me, I'd like to share those values and the story. You see, my dad, by the way, I'm actually a fellow East African, just like yourselves. A lot of people think I live in Dubai, and then of course the accent is different. But I'm actually born and raised in Nairobi in Kenya. Yeah. So I kind of can resonate in many different ways. I was born in Nairobi, I'm raised in Nairobi. I went for my university education in England. But I grew up in Nairobi. And my dad is also he's actually born in Meru. If anybody knows Meru in the highlands in central Kenya. My grandmother is also born just outside of Meru. Okay, so we're third generation out there. So he was the second of 7 siblings. And not very blessed as far as, the way things were in those times, circumstances. So he didn't really go far when he came to formal education. He probably was able to go on to Form 2, Form 3. And because of being a large family, the siblings, the younger siblings, obviously got priority in terms of being educated. So at the age of 18, my dad got adopted, when I say adopted, meaning absorbed, by his uncle who was running a business. And he was kind of an apprentice. He said, look, I need somebody to help me in my business. So he kind of took him as his son. And at the age of 18, my dad started working for him. And up until the age of 30, my dad continued working for him. At the age of 30, this was around the time when I was born, my dad thought, right, I've got about a good 12 years of experience. Maybe I should venture into my own and start my own business. And he did. Unfortunately for him, it didn't work out. It just wasn't made for business. Could be so many different factors. But after 2 years, his uncle, my great uncle, invited him back and he said, hey, look, the door's always open, come back. And my dad did. So at the age of 32, he went back. Today, like I said, my dad is 80. A couple of years ago, he actually got diagnosed with a rare blood condition. He's got a blood cancer. But it's not something that can show symptomatically. So, it's when you take his tests. So he needs to know what medications to take. He needs to be monitored. But if you are to see him, he looks a bit frail. He actually had a fall last year and he broke his hip. And he's recovered from that. And even today, he chooses to go to work. He's officially retired, but he still chooses to go for 4 hours every morning to go to work. Yes, there's a whole team of people out there, but he chooses to be there. So one of the values I learned from my dad is loyalty. You can imagine how many years he has put into that business. Loyalty for me was something that, a lot of people ask me for my zodiac sign. I don't know if anybody over here, I've already given you my birth date, so you can tell me what my star would be. Scorpion? Taurus. So what's the sign for the Taurus? The bull. And they say the bull is very loyal. But I don't think it's that. It's actually a value which comes from my dad. Yeah. So that was first. The second value was service. So other than, the loyalty, my dad is somebody who believes in strong community service. And as I was growing up, what I experienced was Saturday afternoons, Sunday mornings were all spent in the community center helping other people. It could be people who are less fortunate. It could be, helping people in so many different ways. So the whole value of service, helping others, putting others first. He always put others first in so many different ways. Sometimes he put others before his family. We were all very young at the time. And at that time, we couldn't understand why he would do that, right? And he had his own childhood. He had his own growing up. And I'm sure that's shaped who he is and what he became. So service and helping others is something that I took on. I remember in school, I used to always, and when I look back now, it kind of came from him. Helping my fellow friends do their homework because for some reason they've not done it, I would help them. I'll do it for them. I would take lunch to school and I'll actually end up giving that lunch to somebody who probably had no lunch, or maybe their mom didn't have a chance to prepare it for them, but whatever the reason was, I didn't question it. I just gave it. So, giving and service was something that really was instilled. And the third value was the value of family. So as we were growing up, myself and my sisters, my mom would look after us, and my dad would look after his parents, my grandparents. We come from an extended family, a large family. We have a significant community, and my grandparents, they were aging, and my dad was always there for them, taking them and taking care of them. So if you look back, those are the three core values that I have for myself. But what happened was, a lot of people, my other aunts, my other uncles, my other cousins, other friends, they would look at me and they'd say, BJ, if you want to grow up and be successful in life, you cannot be as generous. You're too naive, you're too nice to others, and you cannot be successful in life. You see, the way they looked at my dad was not materialistic. So for them, the measure of success was that car and that house and all those materialistic possessions. But to him, that wasn't what it was. He had a different measure of success. But everybody else saw him, and they said, no, you can't let BJ also be the same. And they would just tell me that you're too nice, you're too generous, you're too naive. And this will not get you far. I remember once I was preparing to go to university, and an aunt of mine asked me, so what do you want to do? What do you want to become? And I was always inspired by my dad's great uncle. He runs today a big business, substantial business back in Kenya. So I was inspired, and I said, I want to become a businessman. And she told me, she said, no, you'll not become a business person. You cannot, you don't have it in you. And I was like, why? He said, you're too nice. You're too nice. You give in too easily. You help others too easily. If you want to be successful, you got to be selfish. You can't be selfless. You got to be selfish. You got to fight for yourself. And she said, let me give you a tip of advice. You will be successful being a teacher. Now, teaching is a noble profession, and I respect it and I value a lot. But maybe she didn't. So I went on to university, and I spent 3, 4, 5 years doing my higher education. But I was like questioning myself now. I was like, really? Is this what it is all about? And I came out of university. I started a career in finance. I went into banking. There's a bank some of you may recognize. I'm not going to name it. But I actually started my career in that bank. And within a few years, I realized I was in the wrong company. The ethics were not what I valued. I moved on to insurance. I moved on to wealth management. 10 years of my career after university was all around banking, insurance, finance. This was before when I discovered BNI. But I was surrounded by a lot of unethical people in that industry. Not to say, and look, no disrespect to people in that profession. We need that, of course. But unfortunately, I was surrounded by the wrong kind of people. There are very, very professional and ethical people out there in that industry, in those industries out there. But unfortunately for me, my experience was not the same. So I kind of came to believe that yes, if you really want to be successful, it has to be just for yourself. Survival of the fittest, you fight for yourself, you do everything, you put yourself before everybody else. So 10th November 2005, what happened exactly? It was in Long Beach, California, at the Hyatt Hotel. My wife Anna and myself, we were attending our first BNI convention. A few months before that, we had actually taken up the franchise, and just like Mac, we had no idea what we were getting into. I kind of liked what BNI stood for. It's a story for another day onto how I got introduced to BNI. But for today, I wanted to share with you, we had made an investment, we got trained, and 5 months later, every November when we have the convention, this was our first BNI convention we went to. And I must be honest with you, when we took on that opportunity 5 months before, it was actually to a certain extent quite a selfish reason. It was purely to do business. I'd experienced a little bit of BNI. I'd seen how these people made money. I hadn't fully understood the givers gain concept. What I did know is people come around, they help each other, and you can actually make a lot, and it can be fantastic. So I was going in there, my wife and I were going in there with the pure intention of building this network so that we could make lots. But what happened on that day? The moment we stepped into the lobby, full of strangers, so all these people experienced in BNI, franchisees of BNI from all over the world, there were strangers, and I'm not an extrovert. I'm not an extrovert. You could say that I'm standing in front of here, I can speak, I connect with people, but given the choice, I'm very comfortable being in a room, doing things on myself. So here was a room full of people in the lobby, and everybody's coming up to you and asking you, who are you? What do you do? Obviously, they knew that I was a fellow BNI franchisee. I was new. I got introduced as the latest country. In those days, I think we were country number 28 or 29. This is 2005. And all of them took a very active interest in myself and my wife. And they were interested in Dubai and the UAE and everything. But every single one of them left asking, how can we help you? What can we do for you? And it was a bit, I was not used to that. You can imagine. I talked about the 10 years of my career. I was just not used to people asking you. Yes, those were the kind of values I had grown up with. But those over time had been buried. And somehow they all kind of started surfacing. We then stepped into the big ballroom where the big event was happening. 500 people. And the energy was exactly the same. Everybody is taking an active interest in who you are, what is it you do, how can we help you, What can we do for you? And at the end of that event, I think we discovered actually I was on the right path. What I'd been doing, what I'd been grown up with, what had been instilled in me was something which was actually the right path thanks to my dad. And that's the time when I said, I'm going to do this. We're going to do this for the right reasons. So the journey, 15 years since then, has been an interesting one. The first 7 years, we immersed ourselves purely into helping others. We actually didn't make any money. We lost money. We had to draw into our savings for the first 7 years. How many of you have started a new business? You have the belief, you have the passion, and for the first 2, 3, 4, 5 years, you find yourself, this is actually not making any money. Has anybody found that? But there is a fuel that keeps you going, right? But you still got to be smart about it. You still got to be smart about it and say, okay, where do I draw the line? How long can I continue this for? Yes, I was selfless. We were naive. But the reason we kept going was because of the success stories we would hear from our members. Members like yourselves, when I go into an event, when I go into a training event, when I go into a chapter meeting, members would be sharing their success stories, how BNI's helped them. Not just in business, but also in their personal development. And that's actually what kept me waking up every morning and going. So, initially it was like every month I would hear a story and I was like, yes, I'm on the right path. And that became every week. That became every day to the point where today, if you look at, I have access and I directly and indirectly am supporting over 1,000 members. Members like yourselves in Uganda, members in Kenya where I'm born, members in the UAE where I live in, members in Qatar, in Doha. I interact with members. Just this morning, networking with so many of you, I've already heard so many success stories and what BNI is doing for you. So it's come to a point where this really is very, very rewarding. But in the early days, yes, the stories were there, 7 years. So obviously, the time would only have come when we just literally ran out of money to keep ourselves afloat. But that 7 years, we broke even, and everything turned around. So that's what kept us going. I can talk about BNI for life, and you can say, hold on, but it's your business in any case. But then I ask myself, what about our members? So here we are today, 15 years later. We got members now. Some of you visited Dubai, right? You met some of the members. Today we got close to 600 members. And half of those members are members over 5 years, over 7 years, over 10 years. I know some of you follow me on social media. Just day before yesterday I posted, we had our longest standing member, 14 years. He passed on the baton to his son. So he passed on his membership to his son because the time has come to that transition for him and his business. And yet he remains very much part of our family because as much as he's no longer a member, he is one of our growth and support director consultants. He continues. So the question really is, what is it that keeps these people in this system? What is it keeps them going? And, after all the conversations that I've had with them, first thing I realized is like attracts like. So if you have certain values, you live those values, you connect with people, you will attract people with similar, like-minded values. And I'm very blessed. If you look at all our membership, our core leadership in our chapters, it's made up of people who are all very successful in their businesses. So it's not about my business being BNI. It's about their business, whatever it is, whether it's printing, insurance, aviation, logistics, flowers. But all of them, for them, their values are the same. And the way they live their life is driven by a life of service. So for them, it's not about this give as gain philosophy. They were already practicing it before. Some people got converted. Some people like myself did not discover give as gain after BNI. It was there, but it kind of got extracted out of their DNA. So for some people, it was already there, and they saw BNI as a way of continuing and sustaining that philosophy. For others, it was a way they could actually make a difference. And all of them are very, very successful. So when you ask these people who are 5, 7, 10, 14 years with BNI, what keeps them going? It's the philosophy. It's what they're living. And if you ask yourself, right, how does that matter to me? For some of you, you're already thinking, yes, I can already see that for myself. And for others, you might be asking yourself, okay, what is the change? What is that shift that needs to happen? All I say to you is, you got to change your perspective. You're not 90-minute or 2-hour members every week. You don't wake up, switch on your BNI switch, go to your chapter meeting, at the end of the meeting, switch it off and continue. No. It becomes part of your life. It becomes part of who you are. Dr. Miser says BNI is a great way of doing business. Not just getting business, of doing business. So ask yourself, are you a 90-minute member? Are you a 3-hour member? Or are you a member for life? And remember what Max said earlier. Sometimes people will leave BNI, and that's okay as well. But they still practice giving. You see, circumstances for all of us can change. Being in BNI, not being in BNI, that's a technical matter. But living a life of service, living a life where you are constantly giving. And the one tip that I got from all these members, and I continue getting, they say, when we're out there, we don't look at ourselves as, oh, we are BNI members, so we got to help. Let me see who I can refer to my fellow members. No. They are, irrespective of whether it's BNI, outside of BNI, when they are speaking to their clients, they're speaking to their customers and suppliers and their friends and associates, they're always looking at ways in which they can help somebody. It's not about BNI. It's always looking at how can I help this person. Every person they meet, whether they meet somebody at the airport, in the airplane, at an event, at a wedding, even at a funeral, they make connections. And it's not just business. It's about, let me understand this person. Who is this person? Take an interest in who they are. Take the interest in their life. Find out what sort of pains and challenges they might be going through, and see if you can help them. See if you can make a connection to them, refer them to somebody who can help them. And when you start doing that, then it just becomes natural. It's no longer, I'm doing BNI, I'm not doing BNI, it's just becoming natural. So, talking about this apron, it's all about not just cooking, but it's about being in service. And I invite all of you, and you're most welcome to try it out. Try wearing an apron. Try wearing an apron and being of service. And see how that can change. It is truly, truly rewarding. Thank you very much.